I was at the Grand Central Terminal in New York City Friday afternoon, waiting for the Long Island Railroad train back home. It had been 3 years since I buried my son. 3 years since I saw Henry's coffin lower into the earth. 3 years since my life was cut in two. I was near the commuter tracks close to the display board when I saw him. It was him. The same height, the same way of walking, the same curve in his shoulders when he adjusted his backpack. Even the way he tilted his head to check his phone for directions. That thing Henry always did, as if the world was a map written in small print. My heart stopped. I dropped my leather tote bag. The cans of diet soda I'd bought for the ride rolled across the marble floor. I didn't care. I ran toward him. "Henry!" I yelled. "Henry, my boy." He turned and then I saw his face. It was him. The same sharp jawline. The same faint scar near his left eyebrow from that time he fell off his skateboard when he was 12. And he told me that story on his 21st birthday. I started crying. I couldn't stop. My hands were shaking when I reached out for him. "Henry, how is this possible?" He looked at me, and in that gaze, I saw something that chilled me to the bone. Confusion. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said with that voice. That voice I'd heard every day for 25 years. "I think you have me confused with someone." "No," I whispered. "No, you are my son." He took a step back. "I am so sorry, but I do not know you." He didn't know me. This man with Henry's face, Henry's voice, Henry's scar, did not know me. "Please," I begged him, taking his arm. He wore a crisp navy blue jacket. Henry had one just like it. "Please, Henry, it's me. I'm Rachel, your mother." He gently but firmly pulled away. "Mom, I think you're mistaken. My name is not Henry." And then he walked away. He walked toward the exit, hailed a cab, and left the terminal as if nothing had happened, as if I didn't exist. I stood there in the middle of the crowded station, surrounded by rolling soda cans, crying in front of strangers who looked at me with pity. A transit cop approached me. "Are you all right, Mom?" No, I was not all right because I had just seen my dead son walking through the train station and he didn't recognize me. That night in my empty apartment in Connecticut, I sat on the couch. It still smelled like him, his cologne, his way of sleeping on his side. I took out my phone and found the last picture I took of him for days before the accident. He was at a Yankees game, smiling, wearing his favorite team cap. The same smile I saw today. The same face, the same man. But he said he wasn't Henry. Then who was he? And most importantly, why did he have the identical face of my deceased son? My name is Rachel Evans. I am 53 years old, and what I am about to tell you in this story, I still struggle to believe myself, but it happened. And it changed everything I thought I knew about the son I raised for over 2 decades. Sometimes we trust too much in those we love. Have you ever been disappointed by someone close to you? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. I did not sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him walking through that terminal, turning toward me, saying those words that broke me a second time. "I think you have me confused with someone." I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning and went to the living room. I poured myself a glass of water and sat in the armchair, where Henry used to fall asleep watching football. His favorite team blanket was still folded on the arm of the sofa. His baseball glove was still next to the coffee table. 3 years. 3 years since that afternoon when the police came to the door. The car accident. He was driving back from a friend's house in Pennsylvania for the Thanksgiving break. They said the crash was instantaneous, that he didn't suffer. But I did suffer. I suffered every day since then. I suffered when I had to choose the casket. I suffered when his sisters cried at the funeral. I suffered when I packed up his room because I couldn't bear to look at his empty desk. I suffered every night sleeping in this house that suddenly felt too big and too silent. And now I was suffering again. But in a different way, because either I was going crazy or something impossible had happened in that train station. I took my phone. My hands were shaking when I opened the photo gallery. I searched for Henry's last photo. There he was, smiling with his checkered flannel shirt he loved so much with that scar near his left eyebrow. I zoomed in on the image. The scar, the same exact scar I saw today on that man's face. Henry told me the story of that scar when he was 18, just before college. We were on a beach trip to the Jersey Shore, sitting on the sand, watching the fireworks. I traced the thin line with my finger and asked him how he got it. I fell off my skateboard when I was 12. He told me I was going down a steep hill in the neighborhood trying to impress a girl. I lost control and crashed into a mailbox. My dad almost passed out when he saw me come home, with blood all over my face. He took me to the emergency room, and they gave me 6 stitches. 6 stitches. The man at the train station had that same scar in the exact same spot. How was that possible? I stood up. I started pacing the living room. My mind kept spinning. There were 3 possible explanations. 1, grief had driven me insane and I was hallucinating. 2, Henry had faked his death in some impossible way. 3, that man was what? A double, a secret twin. The first option terrified me. The second was absurd. And the third was impossible. Henry had told me his whole life. He was our only child. His father, my ex-husband George, had passed away 2 years before Henry did. He had no siblings, no close cousins. Our family was small. I knew his entire life. Or did I? I walked to the closet that used to be Henry's. His scent was still there. Cologne, laundry detergent, that aroma that was uniquely his. I started going through his things, his hoodies, his jeans, the box where he kept his college medals, the shelf where he stored his comic books. I don't know what I was looking for. A sign, a proof, something that would tell me I wasn't going crazy. And then I saw it at the very back of the closet behind the shoe boxes we never moved. There was a cardboard box I didn't recognize. I pulled it out. It was dusty, heavy. I sat on the floor and opened it. Inside were papers, old documents, yellowed photographs. I took out the first photograph. It was a young woman, maybe 20 years old, holding a baby. Behind her, you could see an old building with a sign that read St. Michael's Children's Home, Boston, an orphanage. I turned the photo over. On the back, in faded handwriting, it said, Lisa, 1999. Lisa, the name of Henry's biological mother. I thought, But I had never heard of Elisa. My heart started beating faster. I took out more photos. One of them showed the same woman, a little older, standing in front of a church with a small child by the hand. The child must have been about 5, dark hair, big eyes, Henry. But there was something strange about that photo. In the background, blurry, you could see another person. A child the same age with the same dark hair. I grabbed a magnifying glass Henry used for his hobby. I returned to the photo and examined it. The child in the background looked like the child holding Lisa's hand, dissimilar. My hands began to shake. I took another document from the box. It was a birth certificate. Henry Michael Evans, born August 15, 1999, Boston, Massachusetts. Mother unknown, father unknown. Henry never told me that. He always told me his birth mother Sarah passed away soon after he was born, and his father George adopted him later. I never met her. I never saw photos of her. Henry said his mom kept few things after she died, but this birth certificate said mother unknown. I kept searching the box. I found a newspaper clipping, old yellowed from 1999. The headline read, St. Michael's Children's Home celebrates successful adoption program. More than 30 children find families this year. Below was a group photo of babies and young children with the nuns of the orphanage. And in the lower corner of the photo, marked with a faint pencil circle, there was a baby. Next to the circle, in shaky handwriting, someone had written, My to boys, my to boys. No, my boy, too. I sat on the closet floor for hours, surrounded by papers and photographs, trying to understand what I was seeing. Henry was adopted. That was clear now. But those photos, that certificate, that circle around to babies, it was possible. Was it possible that Henry had a twin brother that he himself never knew existed? And that man at the train station. I gripped the chain of the locket I wore. Henry gave it to me on Mother's Day, promising he would love me forever. And he did. But now I had to know the truth. Even if it hurt, even if it devastated me, even if it changed everything I thought I knew about the son I loved, I had to find that man from the train station, and I had to discover who he really was. As I tell all this, I think about where you might be listening to me. Write the name of your city in the comments. I returned to Grand Central on Monday. I couldn't wait. I couldn't sit at home surrounded by old photos and unanswered questions. I needed to see him again. I needed to confirm I hadn't imagined it. I arrived at 10 o'clock in the morning, the same time as Friday. I grabbed a coffee, even though I didn't feel like drinking it. I walked slowly through every track platform, searching track 1, track 2, track 3. Nothing. I did 3 complete laps of the terminal. 1 hour, 2 hours. He wasn't there. I sat in the terminal cafe with a coffee I didn't want to drink. My hands were shaking. My heart was beating too fast. What if I had imagined it? What if it wasn't real? A maintenance worker passed by, wiping down the tables near me. She was an older woman, about 60, in a janitor's uniform and a kind smile. "Excuse me," I said before thinking it through. "Do you work here every day?" She looked at me curiously. "Yes, ma'am. I've been working here for 15 years. Do you need something?" "Last Friday," I said, choosing my words carefully. I saw a man here, tall, around 25 years old, dark hair, a scar on his eyebrow, wearing a navy blue jacket. Have you seen him? Does he come here often? The woman wrinkled her forehead, thinking a scar on the eyebrow. I pointed to my own eyebrow. She looked thoughtful. I think I know who you mean. He comes every Friday afternoon. Very punctual, that gentleman. He always buys a ticket for the 4:30 p.m. train. He's usually here between 3 and 4 in the afternoon. My heart skipped a beat. Do you know his name or where he lives? She looked at me strangely. No, Mom. I just clean the tables. But he is very polite. Always greets me. He buys a ticket for the 4:30 p.m. train. Yes, like clockwork. 4 days. I had to wait for days to see him again. But now, at least I knew I hadn't imagined it. That man existed. He came here every week, and I was going to be waiting for him. The next 4 days were torture. I couldn't sleep well. I couldn't eat well. My daughters Sarah and Lisa called me worried. Mom, are you okay? Sarah asked me Wednesday afternoon. You sound weird. I'm fine, my love. I lied. Just a little tired. Have you been going to your therapist appointments? She insisted. After Dad and Henry's passing, you said you were going every week. I had stopped going 2 months ago. The sessions made me feel worse. The therapist wanted me to process the grief, to accept the loss, to move on. But how could I do that when I had just seen my dead son walking in a train station? Yes, I'm going. I lied again. Don't worry about me, Sarah. I'm fine. But I wasn't fine. I spent those 4 days investigating. I searched online for everything I could about St. Michael's Children's Home in Boston. I found that it had closed in 1985. Records had been transferred to the state social services. I called the agency. They transferred me from extension to extension for 2 hours until finally a woman told me, "Adoption records from before 2000 are sealed, ma'am. They can only be opened with a court order or if the adopted person requests their file." But my son died. I explained. I am his mother. I need to know if I am sorry, Mom. Without a court order, I cannot help you. I hung up, frustrated. I checked the box I had found in Henry's closet again. I took out all the photos. I put them in chronological order on the dining room table. Lisa with a baby at the orphanage. Lisa with a small child in front of the church. Lisa with Henry about 10 years old in what looked like a family photo. Henry as a teenager with his high school uniform. Henry as a young man, maybe 20, next to his sisters at a party. A complete life documented in photographs. But nowhere did his birth certificate mention his mother. Nowhere did his father George explain the adoption. It had all been a lie. Or perhaps Henry had lied to me. Maybe he never told me he was adopted. Maybe he took that secret to the grave. And if Henry had a twin, if that man at the train station was his brother, where had he been all these years? Why did they never meet? Why were they separated? So many questions and only one way to find the answers. To return to that train station on Friday. On Friday, I arrived at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, an hour before he was supposed to appear. According to the cleaning lady, I sat in the cafe with a view of the main entrance. I ordered another coffee I wasn't going to drink. I put my phone on the table with Henry's last photo open. I looked at it every 5 minutes, comparing. The same eyes, the same nose, the same mouth. By 3:30, my heart was beating so fast, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. At 10 minutes to 4, I saw him enter. It was him. He walked straight to the ticket machines. He took one. He started walking toward the commuter tracks. I stood up. My legs were shaking. This time, I wasn't going to run toward him, yelling like a mad woman. This time I was going to be smarter. I followed him at a distance. He checked the train's schedule. He moved calmly, unhurriedly, like someone who has an established routine. He walked toward the newsstand. He bought a bottle of water, a copy of the New York Times. I followed him 10 feet back, pretending to check products on the stands. He hadn't seen me yet. He passed the pretzel stand and then, as if he sensed someone watching him, he turned. Our eyes met. I saw the recognition on his face. He didn't recognize me, but he recognized that I was the woman from last Friday. The crazy woman who had confused him with someone else. He took a step back. Please, I said quickly, raising my hands to show I wasn't a threat. Please don't leave. I just want to talk to you. He looked around as if searching for help. Mom, I already told you last week I don't know you. I know, I said, approaching slowly. I know and I believe you, but I need you to listen to me for just 1 minute, please. He hesitated. I saw in his eyes that he was considering simply leaving. My son died 3 years ago, I said quickly before he could escape. His name was Henry Evans. And you? You are identical to him. He frowned. There are many people who look alike, Mom. Not like this, I insisted. You have the same scar as him. I pointed to my eyebrow. In the exact same spot, the same facial features, the same voice. He unconsciously touched the scar. That doesn't mean were you adopted? I asked directly. The change in his expression gave me the answer before he could speak. Surprise, discomfort, and something else. Fear? That is none of your business, he finally said, his voice tense. My son was also adopted, I said, from an orphanage in Boston, St. Michael's Children's Home in 1999. I saw his face go pale. How do you know? Because I found documents, I said. Photos, a birth certificate, and I think you and my son were brothers. He shook his head. No, that is impossible. Why? Because I don't have siblings. I was born alone. They told me when I requested my adoption file 20 years ago. Are you sure? I pressed. Did you see the complete file? Did you read everything? He gripped the handle of his bag tightly. They told me my birth mother left me at the orphanage, that she was alone, that she couldn't take care of me. That is all I know. And your date of birth? I asked, my heart in my throat. He looked at me suspiciously. Why do you want to know that? Please, I begged. Just tell me your date of birth. There was a long silence. Finally, he said, August 15, 1999. The world stopped. The same date as Henry, the same day, the same month, the same year. Oh my God, I whispered. He had also realized. I saw his face change. How the slow, terrible comprehension began to dawn in his mind. No, he said, shaking his head. No, that is not. It cannot be. What is your name? I asked with a trembling voice. He looked at me, and in his eyes I saw the same pain I felt. Robert, he finally said. My name is Robert. Robert, the name that Henry's biological mother, Lisa, had perhaps never forgotten. And suddenly everything made sense. Henry never knew his true birth mother's name. I think we need to talk, I said softly. He nodded slowly, still in shock. Yes, he said in a hoarse voice. I think so. And there, in the middle of a busy train station in New York City, two strangers united by a deceased man and a 25-year-old secret, we began to discover a truth that would change our lives forever. What would you have done in my place? Would you have believed him? Leave me your opinion in the comments. We ended up sitting in the terminal cafe. Robert had abandoned his ticket. I had left my bag, too. Neither of us could think about catching a train at that moment. He sat across from me, hands on the table, staring at his coffee cup without touching it. I held mine, seeking warmth, even though I wasn't cold. For the first 5 minutes, neither of us spoke. What do you say at a moment like this? How do you begin a conversation that could change everything you thought you knew about your life? Finally, I broke the silence. Since when did you know you were adopted? I asked softly. Robert looked up close. The similarities to Henry were even more striking. The same shape of the eyes, the same wrinkles on his forehead. Even the way he pursed his lips when he was thinking. I always knew. He finally said, my adoptive parents never lied to me about it. Since I can remember, they told me they adopted me because they loved me and wanted me in their life. Were they good to you? A small smile appeared on his face. They were wonderful. My dad was a salesman in a tech company. My mom was a substitute teacher. We didn't have a lot of money, but we had love. A lot of love. His smile faded. They both passed away 10 years ago, 6 months apart. My mom first from cancer. My dad later, I think from loneliness. I nodded. I knew the kind of love that kills you when the other person leaves. And did you ever look for your biological family? I tried once, Robert said, playing with his cup. About 20 years ago, I went to the state social services. I requested my adoption file. They gave me what they had. It wasn't much. A birth certificate that said, Mother unknown, Father unknown. A report that said I was found at the door of St. Michael's Children's Home when I was only a few days old. A handwritten note that said, please take care of my baby. I cannot give him what he deserves. My heart sank. A note. Yes, I still have it at home. I saved it all these years. He paused. They told me my mother was probably very young, that maybe her parents forced her to leave me. In those times, a single woman with a baby, well, you know how it was. Yes, I knew the late 90s South in the US. The stigma, the shame. Families that hid their pregnant daughters or sent them away. And they never told you that you might have a brother. Never. The file didn't say anything about that. And when I asked if there was more information, they told me no. That the orphanage records were incomplete. That many documents had been lost when the place closed down. I took out my phone. I opened the photo of Henry. I put it on the table between us. This was my son, Henry. Robert looked at the photo, and I saw his face change. How disbelief gave way to astonishment. How his eyes filled with tears. He was trying to hold back. It's like looking at myself in a mirror. He whispered, I know. When did he die? 3 years ago. A car accident. It was very fast. He didn't suffer. Robert passed his finger over the phone screen, zooming in on the image. Did he know he was adopted? I shook my head. No. And I didn't know either until last week. I found a box hidden in his closet. Documents, old photos, a birth certificate that said father unknown. Everything he never told me. Why do you think his mother, his birth mother, didn't tell him? I don't know, I admitted. Lisa, his birth mother, passed away 3 years ago. I never had a chance to ask her, but I think maybe she was afraid of losing him. Afraid that if he knew the truth, he would want to look for his biological family. Or maybe she herself didn't know the whole story. Robert leaned back in his chair, running his hands through his hair. A gesture Henry made when he was stressed. I don't even know what to think. Me neither. My whole life I thought I was alone in the world, he said, his voice cracking. That I had no blood family, that nobody had wanted to keep me. And now you tell me I had a brother, a twin brother, and that he's already gone. That I will never be able to meet him. The tears finally rolled down his cheeks. He didn't try to wipe them. I reached my hand across the table. He took it. And in that moment, he wasn't a stranger. He was Henry's brother. He was family. I'm so sorry, I said. I'm so sorry you went through this, both of you, that you were separated, that you never had the chance to meet each other. Robert squeezed my hand. What was he like, Henry? What was he like as a person? I smiled through my own tears. He was good, so good. A hard worker. He loved camping. He spent hours on the weekends planning his next trip. He loved old rock music. He always said, music doesn't judge you. It just needs speakers and patience. I also like camping, Robert said with surprise. I have a small camper van. I go to the national parks every other weekend. Henry loved Yosemite and Zion, I said astonished. He said the mountains were his therapy. Seriously? Yes. I do the same thing. My friends know that in the spring I'm unreachable. Robert laughed. A sad but genuine laugh. We fell silent, assimilating that small connection. That invisible thread that had united two brothers who never met. Did he have children? Robert asked. To Sarah and Lisa, adults now. Sarah's 33. She's a teacher. Lisa's 31. She's an accountant. They both live here in the city. Have you told them about me? Not yet. I wanted to be sure first. I paused. I wanted to meet you first. Robert nodded. And you? I asked. Do you have family? Something crossed his face. Sadness. I was married, he said slowly. 16 years. But we divorced 8 years ago. It was difficult. We couldn't have children. We tried for years. Treatments, doctors. Nothing worked. And that destroyed us. She blamed me. I blamed myself. In the end, There was nothing left between us but resentment. I'm sorry. Me, too. He shrugged. After the divorce, I focused on my work. I'm a software engineer. I have my own small company. I work from home most of the time, and that's it. My life is simple, quiet. I looked at this man in front of me. This man who shared the same DNA as Henry, who had his same mannerisms, his same passions, his same loneliness, because Henry also felt alone sometimes, even if he never admitted it. I saw it in his eyes when he thought I wasn't looking. That sadness of someone who feels something is missing but doesn't know what. Maybe it was this. Maybe it was that brother he never met. That half of himself that was ripped away before he could even remember it. We need more answers. I finally said, we need to know what really happened. Why were you separated? If your birth mother is still alive, why did Henry's mother adopt only Henry and not both of you? How are we going to find that out? Robert asked. You yourself said the records are sealed. Then we'll get a court order, or we'll look for someone who worked at that orphanage. Someone has to remember. Someone has to know. Robert looked at me with a mixture of hope and fear. Why are you doing this? I am a stranger to you. Because my son deserves for us to know the truth, I said firmly. And because you deserve to know your story, and because my voice cracked. Because when I saw you in that train station, for a moment, Henry was alive again. And I know it sounds selfish, but I'm not ready to let him go completely yet. Robert nodded slowly. I understand. I'm not ready to let go of the possibility of having had a brother either. We sat there for another hour sharing stories. He told me about his childhood in New Jersey where he grew up, about how his father taught him to fish, about how his mother sang him lullabies when he was sick. I told him about Henry, about how we met at a charity event when we were 28, about our small wedding in a town hall, about his sisters, about 25 years of motherhood that passed too quickly. And as we talked, I began to see not only Henry and Robert, but Robert himself, a kind man, a lonely man, a man who had spent his whole life feeling that something was missing without knowing what it was. Maybe I could give him that. Maybe I could give him the family he never knew he had. And maybe he could give me something, too. Not a replacement for Henry. Nobody could replace him. But maybe a connection. A reason to keep going. A way to keep my son's memory alive. When we finally stood up to leave, it was already dark outside. Can I have your phone number? I asked. To keep you informed of what I find. And to talk, I guess. Robert smiled. That Henry smile that melted my heart. I would like that. Would like? We exchanged numbers. We walked out of the station together. He walked toward an old but well-maintained car, a silver Ford from 2010. Before getting in, he turned to me. Thank you, he said, for not thinking I'm crazy, for believing me, for wanting to know the truth. Thank you, I replied, for not running away when that hysterical woman chased you through the train station. We both laughed. A soft laugh that relieved some of the weight of everything we had discovered. I watched him drive away, and as I watched his taillights disappear into the traffic, I touched my locket. Henry, I thought, I don't know if this is a sign from you or just a cruel coincidence from the universe, but I found your brother, and I'm going to find out what happened to you both. I promise." The wind blew softly, moving the leaves of the trees in the parking lot. And for a moment, just for a moment, I felt as if Henry was there with me, telling me I was doing the right thing, telling me to keep going, telling me I wasn't alone. Over the next 3 days, Robert and I texted constantly. At first, they were simple things. Good morning. Good night. How was your day? But then they started to become deeper. He sent me photos of his camper van trips. Green trees hanging over a lake, red rocks in a canyon, a campfire at night. I sent him photos of Henry, of our wedding, of his sisters when they were little, of the house Henry grew up in. And in every photo, Robert saw something familiar. A posture, an expression, a way of smiling. "It's like seeing a life I could have had," he texted me one night. "It's like seeing a version of my son I never knew," I replied. Thursday morning, he called me. "I found something," he said without even saying hello. His voice sounded shaky. "I was going through my things looking for the adoption file they gave me 20 years ago, and I found the note, the one my birth mother left. Do you have it there?" "Yes. I've been reading it over and over, and there's something I didn't see before." "What is it? Can I come to your house? I need to show you this in person." My heart got faster. "Of course. Yes. Come whenever you want. Is it an hour?" "Okay. Perfect." I hung up the phone with trembling hands. 1 hour. In 1 hour I was going to have Robert here in the house I shared with Henry in the space that had been ours for over 20 years. Was I ready for that? I didn't know, but I needed to know what he had found. I spent that hour obsessively cleaning even though the house was already clean. I put away the photos of Henry that I had in the living room. Then I took them out again. Then I put them away again. Was it weird to have photos of my deceased son when his twin brother was coming? Was it weird not to have them? In the end, I left them where they had always been. Henry was my son. This was his house, and I wasn't going to hide that. When the doorbell rang, I almost jumped out of the armchair. I opened the door. There was Robert in jeans and a white shirt holding an old manila envelope in his hands. "Hello," he said softly. "Hello, come in." He walked in slowly, looking around. One knew he was seeing the house where his brother lived, where his brother died. "It's nice," he said. "Thank you. Would you like some coffee, please?" We went to the kitchen. I made coffee while he sat at the table. The same table where Henry and I ate breakfast every morning for years. I served his cup. I sat across from him. "What did you find?" I asked. Robert opened the envelope. He took out a yellowed paper carefully folded. He put it on the table between us. "This is the note," he said. I leaned in to read it. The handwriting was shaky, feminine, from someone who had been crying while writing. It said, "Please take care of my baby. I cannot give him what he deserves. His father wants nothing to do with us. My family has kicked me out of the house. I have no job. I have no money. I am barely 17, and I do not know how I will survive myself, much less care for a child. Please give him a good family, a family that loves him, a family that gives him everything I cannot. His name is Robert. Please do not change it. It is the only thing I can leave him." God bless you for taking care of him. LM. I read the note 3 times. LM. I finally said, do you have any idea who that might be? When they gave me this note 20 years ago, the social worker told me that the initials probably corresponded to Lisa Miller. That was the name that appeared in some orphanage documents as the mother who had left me there. Lisa Miller. Oh my God, I whispered. But here's what I didn't understand until now, Robert said, pointing to the note. It says my baby singular. It doesn't say my babies. It doesn't mention there were 2. Maybe she didn't know she was going to have twins. I thought that, too. But then I looked at this. He took another paper from the envelope. It was a copy of his birth certificate. My date of birth is August 15, 1999. But it says I was born at 2:30 in the afternoon at Boston General Hospital. I took out my phone. I opened the photos from Henry's box. I found his birth certificate. Henry said he was born August 15, 1999 at 2:15 in the afternoon at the same hospital. Robert nodded slowly. 15 minutes apart. That means the doctors knew there were 2. That Lisa knew there were 2. So why does the note only mention 1? That is the question, Robert said, his voice tense. Why would a mother who leaves her babies at an orphanage only write about one of them? We fell silent, thinking, and then slowly a terrible idea began to form in my mind. What if she didn't leave both of them? I said softly. Robert looked at me. What do you mean? What if she only left one? What if she kept the other? I saw his face change. How the realization hit. Henry, he whispered. She kept Henry and she left me. The words hung in the air between us. Heavy, painful. Robert got up from the table. He started pacing the kitchen, running his hands through his hair. That Henry gesture when he was agitated. Why? He asked, his voice broken. Why would she keep one and leave the other? How does a mother do that? I don't know, I said, feeling my own tears. I don't know, Robert. She was 17. She was alone. No family, no money, he continued, his voice rising. And she decided she could care for one baby, but not 2. How did she make that decision? How did she choose? Maybe she had no choice, I said softly. Maybe she thought it was the only way to survive. But she chose, he yelled. Then he stopped, breathing hard. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled. It's okay. You have a right to be angry. He slumped into the chair, his head in his hands. My whole life I thought my mother hadn't wanted me, that she had abandoned me because she didn't love me. And now I discover that she abandoned me because she loved me less than my brother. We don't know that, I said, although I didn't even believe my own words. What else can it be? He looked up, his eyes red. She chose Henry. She kept him. She raised him. She loved him and me. She left me with a note in an orphanage. I didn't know what to say. There were no words that could fix this. I need to find her, he finally said. I need to find Lisa Miller. I need to ask her why. Lisa passed away 3 years ago. I reminded him. Are you sure it was the same person, Henry's mother? I paused. The truth was, I wasn't completely sure. Henry's adoptive mother was Sarah. Maybe Lisa was her sister. I have photos of her, I said. from when she was young. I found them in Henry's box. Can I see them? I went to my bedroom. I took out the box. I returned with the photos. I showed him the first one of a young woman holding a baby in front of the orphanage. Robert took it with trembling hands. "It's her," he whispered. "It's the woman from my dream." "What?" "I have a recurring dream," he explained without taking his eyes off the photo. "I've had it since I was a child. I dream of a young woman holding me, singing to me, crying. I never see her face clearly, but I feel she loves me, that she doesn't want to let me go." His tears fell onto the photo. "It's her. I know it's her." I put my hand on his shoulder. "Robert, where is she buried?" he asked abruptly. "Lisa, where is her grave?" "In Woodland Cemetery in the Bronx." "Why?" "I want to go. I need to see her, even if it's just her grave." I looked at this shattered man in front of me. This man who had just discovered that the mother he thought had never wanted him had actually loved him enough to give him a chance at a better life. Or maybe not. Maybe she could only save one and she chose the other. The truth was we didn't know, and maybe we never would. "I'll take you," I said. "Tomorrow we'll go together." He nodded, wiping his tears. "Thank you." He stayed a little longer. We drank more coffee. We talked about lighter things. I showed him more photos of Henry, photos of his sisters, of our life. And little by little, I saw Robert calm down. How the pain turned into a more manageable sadness. When he finally left, it was already night. "Can I see you tomorrow?" he asked. "Yes, tomorrow." He paused. "Rachel, thank you for this, for helping me, for not treating me like I was crazy." "You are not crazy," I said. "You are hurt. There's a difference." He smiled sadly. "Henry was lucky to have you. I was lucky to have him." I watched him drive away again, and as I closed the door, I felt something strange in my chest. It wasn't the sharp pain of loss that I had felt for 3 years. It was something different, something almost like hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, something good could come out of all this pain. That night, before sleeping, I sat on the bed with the photo of young Lisa holding a baby. I looked at it for a long time. "Why did you do it?" I whispered to the photo. "Why did you separate them? Was it out of necessity, out of love, out of desperation?" The photo, of course, didn't answer. But somewhere in my heart I wanted to believe that Lisa had done the best she could, that she had loved both her children, and that leaving one had been the most painful decision of her life, a decision she took to the grave without ever telling Henry the truth. I touched my locket. Tomorrow I would take Robert to meet his mother, even if it was 25 years late. Even if it was just a tombstone with a name, it was something. And sometimes something is better than nothing. Friday dawned cloudy. I woke up early before the sun rose. I hadn't slept well. All night I dreamed of crying babies, of a young woman who had to choose, of 2 identical children in separate cribs. I got up, made myself a coffee, and sat in the kitchen waiting for 9 in the morning. That was the time I had arranged to pick up Robert. At 8:30, my phone rang. It was Sarah, my daughter. "Mom, are you okay?" she asked without saying hello. "I called you 3 times last night and you didn't answer." I felt guilty. I had been so absorbed in all this that I had ignored her calls. Sorry, my love. I was busy. Busy with what? Mom, you're worrying me. For a week, you've been acting strange. I took a deep breath. I had to tell them. Sarah and Lisa. They had a right to know that their brother had a twin brother. Can you and Lisa come over tonight? I asked. I need to tell you both something important. Are you sick? Her voice sounded alarmed. No, it's not that. It's about Henry. I discovered something you need to know. There was a silence. What is it? Tonight, I'll explain everything tonight. Can you both come at 7? Okay, she said, still sounding worried. We'll be there. I hung up the phone just as the doorbell rang. Robert had arrived. I opened the door. He was dressed in black pants, black shirt, as if he were going to a funeral. It made sense. Good morning, he said. His voice sounded tired. He had dark circles under his eyes. It was obvious he hadn't slept either. Good morning. Do you want coffee before we go? No, thank you. If you don't mind, I'd rather go now. Of course. Let me grab my keys. The drive to the cemetery took 40 minutes. We went in my car. Robert was in the passenger seat, looking out the window without saying anything. I didn't speak either. What do you say at a moment like this? When we arrived at the cemetery, I parked near the entrance. There were few people. An elderly gentleman putting flowers on a grave. A young woman praying in front of a tombstone. An elderly couple walking slowly through the pots. It's this way, I said, guiding Robert. We walked in silence along the paved path. We passed rows and rows of graves, names, dates, photos. Complete lives summarized on marble tombstones. Finally, we arrived. Lisa Miller's grave. It was simple. A gray granite tombstone with her name, her date of birth, and her date of death. And a phrase Henry's father had chosen. Beloved mother, rest in peace. Robert stood in front of the grave, not moving. I stayed a few steps back, giving him space. For long minutes, nothing happened. He just looked at the tombstone, his hands in his pockets, his jaw tight, and then he spoke. Hello, he said softly. I'm Robert, your son, the one you left. His voice broke on the last word. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if it matters after so many years, but I need to say this. He took a deep breath. I need you to know that I had a good life, that my adoptive parents loved me, that I was happy, that I don't hate you for leaving me. Tears began to roll down his cheeks. But I need you to know also that it hurt. All my life it hurt. Not knowing why I wasn't enough. Why you kept Henry and not me. He knelt in front of the grave. Now, I know it probably wasn't your fault. That you were very young. That you were alone. That maybe you thought it was the only way. But it still hurts. It hurts to know that I never met you. That I never got to ask you why. That I never had the chance to tell you that I understand or that I forgive you. Or that I love you anyway. I was crying now, too, silently standing behind him. I met Rachel, Robert continued, Henry's mother. She's a good person. She has treated me kindly. She has helped me understand. And she has shown me photos of you when you were young. I saw the photo of the orphanage. I saw you holding that baby. I saw the love in your eyes." He wiped his tears with the back of his hand. "I want to believe you held me that way, too. Even if it was for one day, even if it was for a few hours. I want to believe you loved me before you let me go." He remained kneeling there in silence for what seemed like hours, but was probably only minutes. Finally, he stood up. He turned to me. "Thank you for bringing me," he said. "You don't have to thank me." "Do you think she knew?" he asked. "Lisa, do you think she knew that Henry never found out he had a brother?" "I don't know," I admitted. Maybe. Maybe she planned to tell him someday and never found the right time. Or maybe she decided it was better he didn't know. That it would be more painful to know he had lost a brother he never met. Robert nodded slowly. Henry was happy, right, in his life. Was he happy? Yes, I said with certainty. He was very happy. He loved his sisters. He loved me. He loved his work, his camping, his quiet life. He wasn't perfect, but he was happy. That's good. I'm glad at least one of us had that. You can have that, too, I said softly. He looked at me. How? I'm alone. No family. No. But you're not alone anymore, I interrupted. You have nephews and nieces, Sarah and Lisa. They have a right to know their uncle. And you have a right to have family. Do they know about me? I'm going to tell them tonight. They're coming to my house, and I would like you to be there so they can meet you. Robert fell silent, processing this. Are you sure? I don't want to intrude on your family. You are not intruding. You are part of this family. You always were, even if nobody knew it. He nodded, his eyes shining with new tears. But this time, they weren't tears of pain. They were of something else, something that looked like hope. We stayed a little longer at the cemetery. I knelt in front of Lisa's grave, and I spoke to her, too. Hello, Lisa, I said softly. I know Henry loved you. He always spoke of you with such affection. He said you were the best mom in the world, and I believe you were. You did what you thought was right, and thanks to you, Henry had a beautiful life. I paused. But Robert also deserves to be remembered. He deserves to be part of this story. So, I'm going to make sure he is. I promise you. I put fresh flowers on the grave, yellow roses, Lisa's favorites. According to Henry's high school yearbook, when we left the cemetery, the sun had come out. The clouds had cleared a bit. Are you hungry? I asked. I know a place nearby that makes delicious burgers and fries. Robert smiled, a small but genuine smile. I would love that. We went to a small diner that Henry and I used to frequent. It hurt a little to enter without him, but it also felt good to take Robert as if it were a way to keep the connection alive. We ordered burgers, fries, and milkshakes. And as we ate, we talked. Not about heavy things, not about Lisa or secrets or pain. We talked about simple things, about his work as an engineer, about my years as an event planner before I retired, about his camping trips, about my grandchildren. And I realized something. I liked Robert. Not just because he looked like Henry, not just because he was his brother, but because he was a good person, kind, thoughtful, with a good sense of humor that came out when he felt comfortable. You know, he said at some point during the meal, when I first saw you in that train station, I thought you were crazy. A woman crying and yelling that I was her dead son. It was terrifying. I laughed. I must have looked like a lunatic. I'm sorry about that. Don't be, he said with a smile. If you hadn't done that, if you had been calmer, I probably would have run away and never discovered all this. That's true. Sometimes the crazy things are the ones we need to do. We finished eating and ordered more coffee. We were in no hurry to leave. It was nice to be there in that small corner of the world without pressures or expectations. What time do you want me to come to your house tonight? He finally asked. At 7. Sarah and Lisa will be arriving around that time. Are you nervous? Very, I admitted. I don't know how they'll react. It's a lot to process. It's been a lot for you, too, Robert pointed out. And you've handled it incredibly well. I don't know if incredibly well is the right description. I've cried every day for the last week, but you kept going. You investigated. You found me. You helped me. That took a lot of strength. His words warmed my heart. Thank you, I said softly. No, thank you for everything. We looked at each other across the table, and in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't romantic attraction. Not yet. It was connection, understanding, the feeling that someone truly sees you and accepts what they see. We paid the bill and left the diner. The sun was shining completely now. It was a beautiful day. I'll see you at 7 then, I said when we arrived at where his car was parked. At 7, he confirmed. And Rachel? Yes. Thank you for everything, for this day, for making me feel like I belong somewhere. You always belonged, I said. It's just that nobody had realized it. I watched him drive away, and as I drove back home, I thought about everything that had happened in the last week. A week ago, I was alone in my empty house, drowning in my grief for Henry. Now I had Robert. I had a mystery to solve. I had a reason to get up every morning. It wasn't the same as having Henry back. Nothing could replace that. But it was something. And as I had told Robert, sometimes something is better than nothing. That afternoon, I prepared the house for the meeting. I cleaned. I made coffee. I got cookies. And I took out all the photos. The ones from Henry's box. The ones of Lisa. The ones of the birth certificate. The note from Lisa. Everything was going to come out into the light tonight. And I didn't know how my daughters would react. I only knew they deserved the truth. The whole truth. Even if it hurt. I still wonder if I did the right thing by looking for the answers. And you, what would you have done in my place? At 7 sharp, the doorbell rang. It was Sarah and Lisa. I opened the door, and there were my two daughters. Sarah in her business suit straight from work. Lisa in jeans and a casual shirt, her accountant uniform. Mom, Sarah said, hugging me. You had us so worried. I know, my love. Come in. Sit down. I'm going to explain everything. They walked into the living room. They sat on the sofa side by side looking at me with concern. What's going on, Mom? Lisa asked. Sarah said you discovered something about Henry. I took a deep breath. Where to start? A week ago, I began. I went to the train station and I saw someone that I thought was your brother." Sarah frowned. "How did you see Henry?" "Mom, Henry died 3 years ago." I know. But this man, he was identical to him. The same face, the same voice, the same scar on his eyebrow." Lisa and Sarah looked at each other, worried. "Mom," Lisa said softly, "have you been taking your medication? Have you been going to your therapist appointments?" "I'm not crazy," I said firmly, "and I'm not hallucinating. This man is real, and it turns out he is your brother's twin brother." Silence. Sarah was the first to speak. "What? Your brother had a twin brother. His name is Robert. And we never knew about him because they were separated at birth. Henry was adopted by his birth mother, Lisa, and Robert was adopted by another family." "That is impossible," Sarah said, standing up. "Henry would have told us. His mom would have told us. Henry's birth mother never told him he was adopted," I explained. "I found documents hidden in Henry's closet, birth certificates, photos from the orphanage, a note from his birth mother." "Let me see," Sarah demanded, her lawyer's instinct taking over. I went to the dining room table where I had put everything. I brought the box. I put it in front of them. Lisa and Sarah started going through the documents. I saw their faces change from skepticism to confusion, from confusion to astonishment. "Oh my God," Lisa whispered, looking at the birth certificate. "It's true. Henry was adopted. And this Robert?" Sarah asked. "Where is he? Did you meet him?" "Yes, I met him. We've been talking all week, investigating, trying to understand what happened." "And what happened?" Lisa asked. I told them everything about Lisa Miller, about how she had twins at 17, about how she apparently kept Henry and left Robert at the orphanage, about the note, about the grave. When I finished, both were silent. Sarah couldn't find the words. "It's too much, I know." "Why did he never tell us?" Lisa asked, her voice breaking. "Why did Henry never tell us he was adopted?" "Because he never knew," I said softly. "His mother never told him. And when she passed away, the secret died with her. Until now," Sarah said. "Until now." The doorbell rang again. The three of us turned toward the door. "That must be Robert," I said. "I asked him to come so you could meet him now." Sarah exclaimed, "Mom, this is too fast. We haven't even processed." "I know, but he is so alone, and you are his family. The only one he has left." I went to open the door. Robert was there with a box in his hands and looking nervous. "Hello," he said. "I brought cupcakes. I didn't know if it was appropriate, but it's perfect," I said, smiling. "Come in." I led him to the living room, and I saw the exact moment my daughters saw Robert for the first time. The shock on their faces, the disbelief, the recognition. Because there he was, an exact copy of their brother standing in their living room. "Oh my God," Sarah whispered. "He's your identical to Henry." Lisa finished standing up. Robert stood there uncomfortable, not knowing what to do. "Hello," he finally said. "I'm Robert, and I know this is very strange for you. It is for me, too." There was a long silence. Then Sarah walked toward him. She looked at him closely. She studied his face, the scar, the eyes, everything. You have his smile, she said with tears in her eyes. The same smile Henry had when he was nervous. Really? Yes, she wiped her tears. I don't know what to think. I understand, Robert said. If you want me to leave. No, Lisa said, suddenly approaching too. No, stay. We need to talk, to meet you, to understand all this. We all sat in the living room. I served coffee. I cut the cupcakes Robert had brought and we started talking. At first, it was awkward basic questions. What do you do for a living? Where do you live? Are you married? But slowly the questions became deeper. What was it like growing up not knowing you had a brother? Sarah asked. Robert thought before answering. Lonely, he finally said. I always felt like something was missing, as if there was a void in my life I couldn't explain. My adoptive parents were incredible. Don't get me wrong, but there was a connection I didn't have with anyone. Henry used to say something similar sometimes, Lisa said quietly. When he drank a little too much at Thanksgiving, he would say that sometimes he felt as if he had left something important behind, as if he had forgotten something. Mom, do you remember? I nodded. I remembered. Henry had those moments of inexplicable melancholy. Maybe we felt each other, Robert said. Maybe on some deep level we knew we were missing the other. Twins have that, Sarah said, who had started Googling on her phone. There are studies on twins separated at birth. Many report feeling an inexplicable connection, similar dreams, similar tastes, even physical pains at the same time. Really though? Robert asked. Yes, it's fascinating. Sarah looked at him with renewed curiosity. Do you have any allergies to shellfish? Why, Henry, too, Lisa said. He was allergic to shrimp once. His whole face swelled up at a restaurant. The same thing happened to me when I was 22, Robert said. I ate shrimp cocktail at a wedding and ended up in the emergency room. And your coffee? Sarah asked. How do you drink it? Black with a little sugar. Just like Henry, Sarah, and Lisa said at the same time. Robert laughed, a laugh that sounded exactly like Henry's. This is very weird, he said, but it's also incredible. Do you have photos from when you were a kid? Lisa asked. I would like to see them. Yes, I brought some. Robert took out his phone. I thought maybe you would want to see. He passed the phone. Sarah and Lisa looked at the photos. I came closer, too. There was Robert as a child, 5 years old, smiling with 2 missing teeth. Oh my God, Sarah said. He's identical to this photo of Henry. She went to a shelf and picked up a picture frame. It was a photo of Henry at the same age, 5 years old, smiling with 2 missing teeth. We put them side by side. They were indistinguishable. How is it possible that you never met? Lisa said, shaking her head. 25 years living in the same state, maybe in the same city, and you never crossed paths. Until now, Robert said softly, looking at me. Thanks to your mom. Mom was always kind of a detective, Sarah said with a small smile. When we were kids and we did something wrong, she always found out who it was. She said she had a sixth sense. It wasn't a sixth sense, I said. It was just paying attention. Well, I'm glad you paid attention this time, Lisa said. She looked at Robert, because now we have an uncle we never knew we had. An uncle, Robert repeated with a trembling voice. Well, what else would you be? Sarah said practically. You're Henry's brother. That makes you our uncle. I saw Robert's eyes fill with tears. I never thought I would have nieces and nephews. Well, now you have to, Lisa said. And soon to be 3. My husband and I are adopting a baby girl in 2 months. Seriously, Robert wiped his tears. Congratulations. Thank you. And now that baby is going to have a great uncle we never knew existed. We all laughed. It was a laugh mixed with tears, but it was genuine. We spent the next 3 hours talking, comparing stories, finding similarities, filling in the blanks. Robert told them about his divorce, about his work, about his camping. Sarah and Lisa told him about their lives, their jobs, their partners, their plans. And I sat there watching this impossible scene, feeling something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Peace. It wasn't the peace of having overcome the pain. The pain was still there. It would probably always be there. But it was the peace of knowing that something good had come out of all this. That Henry, even though he was gone, had left a legacy, not just in his sisters, but in this brother he never knew. You know what we should do, Sarah said suddenly. We should do a DNA test to officially confirm. That's a good idea, Robert said to be 100% sure. I'm already sure, Lisa said. But yes, let's do it for the records. And then, Sarah continued, we should have a family dinner, a big one, with everyone. You, Uncle Robert, Lisa, my husband Mark, everyone. I would love that, Robert said. Me, too, I said. When it was finally time to leave, it was almost 11 at night. I couldn't believe how much time had passed. Sarah hugged Robert at the door. I'm glad Mom found you, she said. Henry would have wanted us to meet. I'm glad to, Robert said, returning the hug. Lisa hugged him next. Welcome to the family, Uncle Robert. Those words made Robert cry again, but they were good tears this time. When my daughters left, and it was just Robert and me, we sat in the living room in silence for a moment. Thank you, he finally said, for this, for giving me a family. You don't have to thank me. This was always your family. We just know it now. Your nieces are incredible. I know. Henry was very lucky. Henry was very lucky in general, Robert said. He had a mother who loved him, a family that adored him, a full life. He paused. Sometimes it hurts to think about everything he had, and I didn't. But now you have it. I said softly. Now you have nieces who love you. You have a family. You have a place where you belong. Thanks to you. No, I said thanks to fate or to God or whatever it was that made me see you in that train station. I just followed my instinct. Robert stood up. I did too. At the door, he turned to me. Can I hug you? He asked. I know it's weird, but it's not weird, I said, opening my arms. We hugged, and for a moment, with my eyes closed, I allowed myself to imagine it was Henry. That it was my son saying goodbye one last time. But when I opened my eyes, it was Robert, and that was okay, too. Good night, Rachel. Good night, Robert. I watched him walk away, and when I closed the door, I leaned against it and cried. I cried for Henry, for Robert, for Lisa, for all the lost years, for all the connections that were never made. But I also cried with relief because for the first time since Henry died, I felt like I had done something important, something that mattered. I had reunited a family that never knew it was broken, and in the process, I had found something for myself, too. Not a replacement for Henry, never that, but maybe a friend, a connection, a reason to keep going. That night, before sleeping, I looked at Henry's photo on my nightstand. I found him. I whispered to him, "I found your brother, and he's a good person, my love. You would have liked him." I touched the photo softly. "I wish you were here to meet him. I wish things had been different." The silence of the house answered me. But it wasn't such a heavy silence anymore because now I knew I wasn't completely alone. That there was a part of Henry still in this world, walking, breathing, living. And that was enough for now. The following weeks were strange. Good, but strange. Robert began coming to the house regularly. At first, it was once a week, Sundays. It became our tradition. I cooked. He brought dessert, and we spent the afternoon together. Sometimes Sarah and Lisa came too. Sometimes it was just the two of us. And slowly, very slowly, I began to get to know Robert not as Henry's brother, but as Robert. I discovered he liked reading mystery novels, that he collected classic rock vinyl records, that he had learned to play the guitar when he was young, but had quit after the divorce. "Why did you quit?" I asked him one Sunday while we were doing the dishes together. "Because she hated the sound," he said with a sad smile. "She said it gave her a headache. So I put the guitar in the closet and never took it out again." That's sad. Many things in that marriage were sad. He shrugged. "But it's over now. It doesn't matter anymore." "Is the guitar still in the closet?" "Yes. You should take it out," I said. "Life is too short not to do the things you love." I knew it well. Henry died at 25 just when we were planning his first big trip. Just when he was going to start doing all those things we always said he would do someday. Someday never came. "You're right," Robert said thoughtfully. "Maybe I should." 2 days later, he sent me a video. It was him playing the guitar. An old song by Tom Petty, "Wildflowers." Henry loved that song. I replied, "Beautiful. Your brother would have loved to hear you play." He replied, "Maybe in some way he did hear me." I like to think so. That Henry was somewhere watching all this and was happy that his brother and I had found each other. A month after the day he met Sarah and Lisa, Robert invited me to his house for the first time. He lived in a small house in the suburbs of New Jersey. Nothing luxurious, but well kept with a small garden in the front full of flowers. "Your garden is beautiful," I said when I arrived. "Thanks. It's my therapy." He showed me his tomatoes that were huge and red. "Look at these. They are heirloom variety. I planted them 3 months ago." "Henry also planted heirloom tomatoes," I said, touching one of the plants. "He said they tasted better than the ones at Kroger." He was right. "We have to try them." He cut to ripe tomatoes. "We're going to use them for lunch." He invited me inside. The house inside was simple, functional furniture, but not much decoration. Few paintings on the walls, few photos. It was the house of someone who lived alone and didn't receive many visitors. "Sorry about the mess," he said, although there was no mess. Everything was clean and tidy. "It's perfect," I said. He prepared lunch for me. Pasta with the tomatoes from his garden, fresh basil, olive oil. Simple but delicious. We ate at his small kitchen table with a view of the garden through the window. "Do you feel lonely here?" I asked without thinking it through. Then I regretted it. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have." "No, it's okay," he interrupted me. "Yes, sometimes I feel lonely, especially at night, but I got used to it. After the divorce, I preferred to be alone than to be with someone who made me feel worse. I understood that I knew widowed women who had remarried quickly because they couldn't stand the loneliness, but I could never imagine myself with anyone else but Henry. "And you?" Robert asked. "Do you feel lonely in your house?" "All the time." I admitted the house is too big for one person. There are too many memories, too many empty spaces. "Have you thought about selling, moving to something smaller?" Sarah suggested it, but I can't. That house it's where Henry lived, where we raised his sisters. Selling it would feel like betraying him. Robert nodded. I felt that way about my wedding ring. After the divorce, I took it off, but kept it in a drawer. I couldn't throw it away. It was like throwing away 8 years of my life. Even if those years weren't happy, they were still mine. "Do you still have it?" "Yes. In a box along with other things I don't know what to do with, photos, letters, memories of a life that no longer exists." We were silent for a moment. Two people carrying their own sorrows, their own losses. "You know what the hardest thing is," he finally said. "It's not the loneliness itself. It's not having someone to share the small things with, like when you make a joke and there's no one to laugh, or when you cook something tasty and there's no one to try it, or when you see something interesting on the street and you turn to comment on it, but there's no one there." "Yes," I whispered. "Exactly that. Henry was lucky to have you," Robert said, looking at me. "To have someone to share all that with for 25 years. I was lucky to have him." After lunch, Robert showed me the rest of his house, his small office where he worked, his simple bedroom, and in a room at the back, his music room. There was his vinyl collection, hundreds of them organized alphabetically, and in the corner on a stand, his guitar. "I took it out," he said, touching it softly. "After your text, I cleaned it. I changed the strings, and I've been playing again. I'm glad. Do you want to play something?" "I'd love to." He sat down and started playing. Another old song, "Yesterday" by the Beatles. I closed my eyes and listened, and for a moment I felt as if Henry was there with me. Not literally, not as a ghost or spirit, but in the music, in his brother's hands, playing those strings, in the memory of all the times Henry and I sang that song in the car. When he finished playing, I had tears in my eyes. "I'm sorry," I said, wiping them. "That song was special for you and Henry." "Yes, we used to sing it when we drove." Robert put the guitar aside. He sat next to me on the small couch in the music room. "Rachel, there's something I've wanted to ask you, but I haven't known how." "What is it? Is it okay?" He asked softly. "That I'm here, that we've formed this friendship. Doesn't it feel like you're replacing Henry? I thought carefully before answering. At first, I admitted, I felt guilty, as if being with you was betraying his memory. Because you look so much like him. You sound so much like him. Sometimes when I'm not paying attention, for a second, I think you're him. I know, I've noticed. But, I continued, little by little, I've realized that you are not Henry. You are Robert. And although you look alike, you are different. You are quieter, more introspective, more musical. Henry was more outgoing, more direct, more sporty. And is that okay that I'm different? It's more than okay, I said, because I don't want a replacement for Henry. Nobody could replace him. But I do want. I searched for the right words. I do want a friend, someone who understands, someone to share the small things with. Robert smiled. That Henry smile that melted my heart, but that I was now beginning to recognize as Robert's, too. I want that too, he said, and I can be that friend for you if you let me. You already are. We sat there in that small music room surrounded by vinyl records and memories. Two lonely people who had found mutual comfort. It wasn't romance. Not yet. But it was something. It was connection. It was companionship. It was the promise that neither of us had to be alone. 2 weeks later, Robert invited me to a concert. It was a blues festival in New Orleans, a genre Henry never enjoyed, but that I always loved listening to live. You don't have to come if you don't want to, he said when he proposed it to me. I know maybe it's weird, but I have tickets, and I thought I would love to go. I said without hesitation. The night of the concert, I dressed more carefully than I had in months. I put on a navy blue dress that Henry had given me years ago, but that I rarely wore. I put on light makeup. I styled my hair. When I looked in the mirror, I almost didn't recognize myself. I had been so lost in my grief for 3 years that I had forgotten about myself, about the woman I was. Besides being Henry's mother, Robert arrived on time. He wore a gray suit jacket. He looked handsome. I couldn't help but think it. You look beautiful, he said when I opened the door. Thank you. You look very good, too. Ready. The concert was magical. The music filled the theater, enveloping everyone in its energy. I got lost in the notes, in the rhythm, in the passion of the musicians. Robert was sitting next to me, completely absorbed, too. Occasionally, our hands touched on the shared armrest, and we didn't move. We let them stay. During the intermission, we walked through the theater lobby. What did you think? He asked. Incredible. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for coming. He paused. I had forgotten how nice it is to share something like this with someone. Me, too. We looked at each other, and in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. A spark, small, almost imperceptible, but it was there. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't betrayal. It was just possibility. The possibility that maybe, just maybe, life hadn't ended when Henry died. The possibility that maybe there was still joy to be found, moments to live, connections to make. Not now, not yet, but someday, maybe. After the concert, Robert drove me home. At the door, before saying goodbye, he said, Rachel, there's something I want you to know. What? These last 2 months since I met you have been the best of my life in a long time. And it's not because you look like Henry's mother, or because you are my connection to the brother I never met. It's because you, because you are kind and strong and genuine. And I feel fortunate to have met you. My heart beat faster. I also feel fortunate to have met you. Good. He smiled. I just wanted you to know. Robert, you don't have to say anything. He interrupted me gently. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know how I feel. I nodded, speechless. Good night, Rachel. Good night, Robert. I watched him walk away, and when I entered my house, I sat on the sofa and touched my locket. The locket that Henry gave me. The locket that promised eternal love. Henry, I whispered to the empty air. I don't know what to do. I don't know if it's okay to feel what I'm starting to feel. I don't know if I'm betraying you or if this is what you would have wanted for me. The silence answered me as always. But in my heart, I felt that Henry would understand. That he wouldn't want me to spend the rest of my life alone, crying over him, living in the past. He would want me to be happy. And maybe, just maybe, Robert could be part of that happiness. Not as a replacement, never that, but as a new beginning, a second chance, an unexpected gift from the universe. Or maybe a gift from Henry himself, sending me his brother when I needed it most. I didn't know for sure, but I was starting to believe it was okay not to know. That it was okay to simply let myself feel and see where the path led me. 3 months after that night at the concert, I received a call that changed everything again. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the kitchen doing dishes when my cell phone rang. An unknown number from Boston. Hello, Mrs. Rachel Evans, asked an elderly female voice. Yes, this is she. My name is Sister Beth. I'm calling from the convent of the Sisters of Charity in Boston. I work with the historical records of St. Michael's Children's Home. My heart raced. Yes. How can I help you? Well, it's more like I can help you. A few months ago, someone from the state social services contacted me saying you had been looking for information about an adoption from 1999. The Miller twins. Yes, I said, almost breathless. Yes, I've been looking for information. Did you find something? Something you might want to see? Letters from Lisa Miller. She wrote several letters before she died. They are in our archive. They were never delivered because, well, I'll explain that when you come. What? What kind of documents? Letters from Lisa Miller. She wrote several letters before she died. They are in our archive. They were never delivered because, well, I'll explain that when you come. I'll be there, I said without thinking. When can I go? Whenever you like. I am here every day. I will go this weekend. Perfect. I will wait for you here, Mrs. Evans. I hung up with trembling hands. Letters. Lisa had written letters. I immediately called Robert. Did they find something? I said as soon as he answered. A nun in Boston. She says she has letters from Lisa. What? When? I have to go this weekend. Do you want to come with me? There was a pause. Are you sure? He asked. Maybe those letters say things that hurt. I know, but we need to know the truth. The whole truth. You're right. He took a deep breath. Yes, I'll go with you. Saturday morning, we left for Boston. It was a 3-hour drive. Robert drove. I was in the passenger seat, nervous, looking out the window. We talked little during the trip. Both of us were lost in our thoughts, wondering what we were going to find. We arrived at the convent at noon. It was an old building with stone walls and a quiet garden full of flowers. Sister Beth met us at the door. She was a woman in her 70s, small with thick glasses and a kind smile. Mrs. Evans, I presume. Yes, and this is Robert. The sister looked at Robert. Her eyes widened. Oh my God, she whispered. You must be one of the twins. Yes, sister. You look so much like. She stopped. Please come in. I have a lot to show you. She led us to a small office full of files and old boxes. On the desk was a manila folder. Sit down, she said, pointing to 2 chairs in front of the desk. We sat down. She opened the folder. Before I show you the letters, I need to tell you the complete story so you understand the context. Okay, I said. Lisa Miller arrived at St. Michael's Children's Home in July of 1999. She was 17 years old and 7 months pregnant. Her family had kicked her out of the house when they discovered her pregnancy. The baby's father, a boy from her school, denied the child was his. Robert squeezed his hands on his legs. Lisa had nowhere to go. The sister continued. So she came to us. We gave her shelter, food, a safe place to have her baby. Did you know they were twins? I asked. Not until the moment of birth. In those days, there were no ultrasounds like now. When the first baby was born, we thought that was it. But 15 minutes later, the second one was born. Henry and I, Robert said quietly. Yes, to perfectly healthy, identical, beautiful boys. And what happened next? I asked. The sister sighed. Lisa was devastated. She was 17 with no money, no family, no support, and now she had 2 babies. She didn't know what to do. She spent 3 days in the orphanage infirmary crying nonstop, holding her babies. My heart broke imagining that scene. On the 4th day, the sister continued. She came to talk to me. I was very young then. I had just taken my vows. Lisa told me she couldn't care for 2 babies, that she could barely care for one. She asked me if we could help her find an adoptive family for one of the children. Only for one? Robert asked. Yes, she wanted to keep the other. She said she couldn't give up both, that she needed to at least try to be a mother to one of them. And how did she choose? Robert asked with a trembling voice. How did she decide which one to keep and which one to give up? Sister Beth looked at him with infinite compassion. She did not choose out of preference, son. She chose by chance. She closed her eyes and held both babies, and the one in her right arm she kept. The one in her left arm, that was you. Robert covered his face with his hands. His shoulders were shaking. It was not because she didn't love you, the sister continued softly. It was because she had to make an impossible decision, and that was the only fair way she found to do it. And after that, I asked, tears rolling down my face. After that, she left with Henry. She got a job as a nanny. She lived in service quarters. She worked day and night to support that child. And she succeeded. She gave him a life, not perfect, but full of love. And she never came back for Robert. I asked. She couldn't. The sister opened the folder, but she wrote letters for years. Letters she never sent because she didn't know where to. She pulled out an envelope yellowed old. This is from 2007, 8 years after the birth. She handed the envelope to Robert. With trembling hands, he opened it and began to read aloud. My dearest Robert, today is your 8th birthday. Henry, your brother, is also turning 8. I baked a small party for him, just the two of us. A chocolate cake that I made with my own hands and some candles. But as we sang happy birthday, I could only think of you. Where are you? What do you look like? Are you happy? Does your family treat you well? I think of you every day, every birthday, every Christmas. Every moment of joy with Henry is tinged with the sadness of your absence. Henry does not know about you. I have not told him. How could I explain to him that he has a brother he will never meet? How could I burden him with that pain? Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing, if I should have found a way to keep both of you, if I should have been stronger. But then I look at Henry, healthy and happy, and I tell myself that at least I saved one. That at least one of my children is okay. I pray every night that you are also okay, that you found a family that loves you as I could not love you, that you are happy. I love you, my son. Even if you are not with me, even if I never see you again, I will always love you. Your mother, Lisa. Robert couldn't keep reading. He was sobbing openly now. I got up and hugged him. We were both crying. Sister Beth waited patiently, tears in her own eyes. There are more, she said softly when Robert could breathe again. She wrote one every year until 2017, 18 letters in total. Why did she never send them? I asked. Because the adoption records were private. She didn't know who had adopted Robert. She didn't know his last name. She didn't know where he lived. So, she wrote the letters and kept them here with us, hoping that someday someone would come looking for them. And here we are, Robert said. Here you are. The sister handed him the folder. All of these are yours to read when you are ready. Robert took the folder with reverence as if he were holding something sacred. Thank you, sister. There is one more, she said. A final letter. Lisa brought it to me in 2017. She said it would probably be the last because she was sick. She passed away 3 years later. She pulled out another envelope. This one was sealed. She asked me to give it to Robert if he ever came looking for her, that no one else should read it. Only him. She handed the envelope to Robert. He looked at it for a long time. Then slowly he opened it. He read in silence. I watched his face change, how the tears rolled, how his lips trembled. When he finished, he passed the letter to me without saying a word. I read it. My dearest Robert, if you are reading this, it means you finally came looking for me. It means you found the answers you deserved to have. I am probably already gone. You probably never had the chance to meet me, and that hurts more than I can express. I want you to know something. Leaving you was the most painful decision of my life. Every day since then, I have lived with that pain, with the guilt, with the question of whether I did the right thing. But I also want you to know this. I loved you from the moment you were born until the moment I left you. I loved you with all my heart, and I continued to love you every day after. I did not leave you because you were not enough. I left you because I wanted you to have a chance at a better life than the one I could give you. A family with money, with stability, with 2 parents. Henry also had a difficult life. We grew up in small apartments. We ate cheap food most days. We never had luxuries, but we had love. And I hoped that was enough for him. I wish I could have done the same for you. I wish I could have been your mother, too. But I couldn't. And I had to live with that reality every day. If you ever wondered why I abandoned you, the answer is I didn't abandon you. I set you free. I gave you the opportunity I couldn't give you. And I hope with all my heart that you had a happy life, that you were loved, that you fulfilled your dreams, because that was my dream for you. I love you, my son. I have always loved you. I will always love you. Your mother who never stopped thinking about you, Lisa Miller. I folded the letter carefully and handed it back to Robert. We sat in that small office for a long time in silence, processing, crying, healing. Finally, Robert spoke. Thank you, sister, for keeping these letters, for waiting all these years. It was the least I could do. Sister Beth said, Lisa was a brave woman. She did what she had to do to survive and to give both of you a life. She deserves to be remembered with honor. She will be. I promised. I promise. We left the convent with the folder of letters. Robert held it against his chest as if it were a treasure, because it was. It was proof that he had been loved, that he hadn't been abandoned, that his mother had chosen him in the only way she could, with pain, but with love. In the car, heading back home, Robert finally spoke. My whole life I thought I wasn't wanted, he said, that I wasn't enough, and it turns out I was loved all along, just in a way I never knew. You were very loved, I said, taking his hand. By Lisa, by your adoptive parents, and now by Sarah, Lisa, and me. He squeezed my hand. You know what? The craziest thing about all this is what? That if Lisa hadn't made that impossible decision, I never would have met my adoptive parents. I never would have had the life I had, and I never would have met you. He was right. All the pain, all the suffering, all the impossible decisions had led to this moment, to us together finding peace in the midst of the sorrow. I think, I said softly, that everything happens for a reason. We don't always understand why, but in the end, the pieces fit together in ways we never expect. Do you think Henry knew? Robert asked. Do you think somehow he knew I existed? I don't know, but I like to think so. That on some deep level he knew something was missing, and that now from wherever he is, he's happy that we finally found each other. Robert smiled, the first genuine smile since we entered that convent. I like to think that, too. We drove in silence the rest of the way, but it was a comfortable, peaceful silence. When we arrived at my house, it was already night. Do you want to come in? I asked. No, thank you. I need to be alone for a while to process all this, to read the other letters. I understand. Before leaving, he hugged me, a long, strong hug full of gratitude. Thank you, Rachel, he whispered, for everything, for finding me, for helping me discover the truth, for giving me a family. You don't have to thank me. We are family, and family takes care of each other. Family he repeated with a small smile. Is that what we are? There was something in the way he asked it, something in his eyes. Yes, I said, although my heart was beating faster. Family, for now, that was true. But we both knew it was starting to be something more. Something neither of us was ready to name yet. But it was there, growing, waiting, like a seed planted in fertile ground, waiting for the right moment to bloom. 6 months after that visit to Boston, life had changed in ways I never imagined. Robert had become a constant part of my life. He no longer only came on Sundays. He came on Wednesdays, too, to help me with the yard work, and on Fridays to cook together. And sometimes during the week, just because. My daughters adored him. Lisa had invited him to be the baby's godfather when she was born. A beautiful girl named Ellie in honor of his adoptive grandmother. When Lisa announced the name in the hospital, Robert cried. Tears of joy and healing of a circle finally closing. Sarah had also grown very close to him. She called him to ask for advice on her school cases. He, with his engineer's mind, could see patterns and numbers in ways she found helpful. And I had started to feel things that scared me. Not because they were bad, but because they meant I was letting go of something I thought I would never let go of. My grief for Henry. It wasn't that I had stopped loving him. I would never stop loving him. He would always be my first love, my son, the man with whom I built a life. But little by little, I had begun to accept that my life with Henry had ended and that it was okay to start something new. One Saturday morning, Robert arrived earlier than usual. I was still in my pajamas, drinking coffee in the kitchen when he knocked on the door. Robert, I said, surprised when I opened it. I wasn't expecting you until 10 o'clock. I know, sorry, but I couldn't wait. He looked nervous. He was carrying something in his hands. A small box. Can I come in? Sure, come in. Do you want coffee? No, thank you. I need to tell you something. My heart began to beat faster. We sat in the living room. He put the box on the coffee table, but didn't open it yet. What's wrong? I asked. You're scaring me. I don't want to scare you. I want to. He took a deep breath. Rachel, these last few months have been the happiest of my life, and I know it's probably too soon. I know maybe I'll never measure up to Henry, but I need to tell you this, Rachel. I'm in love with you, he said all at once. I don't know when exactly it happened. Maybe it was at that concert. Or maybe it was when you invited me to meet your daughters. Or maybe it was the day you took me to my mother's grave and held my hand while I cried. I don't know, but it happened. And I can't pretend we're just friends anymore. Tears filled my eyes. I'm also in love with you, I whispered, and I felt so guilty about it. Why? Because it feels like betraying Henry, like replacing him. Robert took my hands. You're not replacing him. I am not Henry. I never will be. And I don't want to be. I want to be Robert, the man who loves you for who you are. Not because you are his mother, but because you are smart and strong and beautiful and kind. I don't know if I'm ready, I admitted, for loving someone again. You don't need to be ready today or tomorrow or next month. I just need you to know how I feel, and that when you are ready, if you ever are, I'll be here waiting. I looked at this man in front of me. This man who had entered my life in the most impossible way, who shared my son's face, but had his own heart, his own soul. And I realized something. I didn't have to choose between Henry and Robert. I could love both in different ways, at different times. But both were valid. Both were real. There's something I need to do first, I said. I stood up. I went to my bedroom. I opened the drawer of my dresser and I took out the locket. I had worn it for 3 years. I never thought I would take it off. But now, looking at it, I knew it was time. Not because Henry didn't matter, but because I had learned that loving someone new didn't mean stopping loving the one you lost. It simply meant that your heart had found more space. I returned to the living room. Robert looked at me expectant. I need to do something. I told him, "Would you come with me?" "Where?" "To the cemetery." Half an hour later, we were standing in front of Henry's grave. There were fresh flowers, the ones I put there every week. Robert stayed a few steps back, giving me space. I knelt in front of the tombstone. I touched Henry's name engraved in the marble. "Hello, my love," I whispered. "I came to say goodbye. Not forever, never forever, but in a different way." The tears rolled down my face freely. "I met your brother. I know you already know. I know somehow you brought us together because we needed to find each other. He needed family, and I needed a reason to keep going." I touched the locket. I fell in love with him, Henry, and I feel guilty about it. But I also feel that maybe you would want this for me, that you would want me to be happy, that I wouldn't spend the rest of my life alone. I undid the clasp of the locket slowly. I cried as I did it, but I need to move on. I need to live because I'm still here. And you would want me to live, wouldn't you? The wind blew softly, moving the flowers, and I felt in my heart that Henry was giving me his blessing. "Thank you," I whispered, "for everything, for 25 years of love, for a life that, although it ended too soon, was complete. I will never forget you. You will never stop being a part of me." I kissed the locket, and then I placed it on the small vase of flowers in front of the grave. But now it's time for me to find my own happiness again. And I think your brother can give me that in a different but good way. Very good. I stood up. I wiped my tears. "I love you, Henry. Always." I turned toward Robert. He had tears in his eyes, too. "Are you sure?" he asked. "I'm sure." We walked back to the car, holding hands, and although my heart still had for Henry, it also felt light, free, ready to love again. 3 months later, Robert and I were in the yard of my house. He had brought new seeds, heirloom tomatoes, the same ones Henry used to plant. "Are you sure you want to plant them?" he asked. I know this was Henry's garden. It was Henry's garden, I said, but now it can be our garden. We don't have to erase his memory to create our own history. Robert smiled. That smile that no longer reminded me so much of Henry, but that had begun to be uniquely Robert's. We planted together. We dug the soil. We put in the seeds. We watered them. And as we worked, we talked about our plans. Robert had decided to sell his house. It was too big for one person, and it was too far away. "Have you thought about where you would move?" I asked, although I had an idea. "Well," he said carefully, "I had thought maybe if it's not too soon." "Yes," I said before he could finish. "Yes, Yes, you can move here if that's what you wanted to ask. His face lit up. Are you sure? I don't want to pressure you. I'm sure this house is too big for me alone, and you spend most of your time here anyway. It makes sense. And your daughters, what are they going to think? I already asked them. They think it's fine. In fact, Sarah said it was about time we stopped pretending we were just friends. Robert laughed. He pulled me toward him and he kissed me. It wasn't our first kiss. We had had our first kiss a month ago, one night after dinner when the conversation stopped and we simply looked at each other and knew it was time. But every kiss still felt special. It still gave me butterflies in my stomach. I love you, Rachel, he said against my lips. I love you, too, Robert. And I meant it. Not in the same way I loved Henry. It was different, but it was no less real. It was no less deep. It was simply new. A second chance at happiness. A gift that the universe or God or Henry himself had given me when I needed it most. That night we had dinner with the whole family. Sarah, Lisa, her husband Mark, the little Ellie, Robert, and me, all around the table that used to belong only to Henry and me. But that was now ours. Lisa raised her glass. A toast, she said, to Uncle Robert, to Mom, and to Henry, who somehow brought us all together. To Henry, everyone repeated, and to second chances. I added to the love we lost and the love we found. To second chances, everyone said. We toasted, we drank, we laughed, and in that moment, surrounded by my family, with Robert's hand in mine, I felt completely at peace. It had been a year since that afternoon at the train station when I saw a ghost. A year since my life changed forever, and it had been the most difficult year of my life, but also the most transformative. I had lost my son, but I had found his brother. I had cried more than I thought was possible, but I had also loved again. I had discovered painful secrets, but I had also found healing truths. And I had learned something important. That life doesn't end with loss. It just changes. That love is not finite. It can grow. It can expand. It can find new ways of existing. And that sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings. I got up from the table for a moment. I went to the living room where we had family photos on the wall. There was Henry at his graduation with his sisters in his favorite camping spot. And now next to those photos there were new ones. Robert with Sarah and Lisa. Robert holding little Ellie. Robert and me in the garden. I hadn't erased the past. I had simply added to the future. And that was fine. More than fine. It was perfect. Robert came and stood next to me. What are you thinking about? He asked. About how strange life is, I said. About how the most impossible things sometimes turn out to be exactly what we needed. Like finding you in that train station. Like thinking I had seen a ghost when I had actually found the future. About how strange life is, I said. About how the most impossible things sometimes turn out to be exactly what we needed. Like finding you in that train station. Like thinking I had seen a ghost when I had actually found the future. He hugged me from behind, resting his chin on my head. Thank you for not running away, he said. When you saw me that day, when you could have thought you were crazy and let it go. Thank you for chasing the truth. Thank you for not calling the police. Old have thought you were crazy and let it go. Thank you for chasing the truth. Thank you for not calling the police. I joked when a crazy woman chased you through a train station yelling a dead man's name. We both laughed, and in that laughter, there was healing. There was joy. There was hope. The things I thought I would never feel again after Henry died. But here they were. Because life, I discovered, always finds a way. Love always finds a way. And broken families always find a way to unite again. Even if it's in the most unexpected way. Even if it takes a ghost in a train station for it to happen. This is the takeaway lesson I want you to carry with you from my impossible journey. When profound loss strikes, we often build walls of grief around ourselves, convinced that the greatest love we experienced is also the last. I learned that true love doesn't demand exclusivity from your future. It encourages your continuance. The strength it takes to embrace a second chance, whether it's a new purpose, a new path, or even a new person, is not an act of erasing the past, but an act of honoring the beautiful life that came before. Do not let the memory of a finished chapter prevent you from writing a magnificent new one. Grief teaches you profound humility and resilience, allowing you to recognize and appreciate unexpected blessings. Sometimes the universe sends you not a replacement, but a continuation, a new form of connection that helps you heal not just your heart, but also the unresolved pain of the one you lost. Open your heart to the possibility that life's most shocking twists are simply the mechanism for a profound and necessary renewal. If my story helps one single person to open their eyes to believe that they can love again after loss, to understand that endings can also be beginnings, it will have been worth it, because that's what I learned in this impossible year, that death is not the end of love, that secrets always find the light, that families are stronger than we believe, and that sometimes the greatest gift we can receive is a second chance, not to replace what we lost, but to honor it by building something new, something beautiful, something none of us expected, but that we all deserved. Thank you for listening to the end. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and turn on notifications to hear more stories of women who transformed their pain into wisdom. Every day, a woman, a life lesson. Share this story with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change an entire day. God bless you, and until next.